He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Well, not exactly. Bill Cunningham here. I received a call a couple weeks ago from Richard Cimenta, who's the executive producer and the chief bottle washer at the Mark Levin Show. Asked me to pinch hit tonight for the great one. I'm humble and quietly proud to have accepted the offer because I'm a fan of Mark Levin. Mark Levin is a great American. He's the great one. And good to be with you tonight. And let's get right into it. This news broke yesterday about General Michael Flynn, who's an American hero, 30-plus years, 3-star Ranger. Michael Flynn is about the best there is. It was reported originally by NBC News and the Wall Street Journal, the daily diary of the American dream, that Flynn offered immunity, if granted immunity, by the Congress to give full and faithful evidence and testimony about what he knew about the Russian connection. Can we cut through a lot of the bovine scatology and say this? The only reason that the Democrats, that the Republicans, that the FBI would grant Flynn any immunity is to get Donald J. Trump out of office. Can we say that at the forefront of tonight's Mark Levin Show? That is the only thing that they would give him immunity to do. And the fact that he probably can't do it because the evidence does not exist is indicative of the canards put out by the various two intelligence committees and also the Democrats relative to the investigation of the so-called Russian connection. Can Mike Flynn deliver Donald J. Trump? If the answer is yes, whatever that deliverance happens to be, if those are the facts, then the Trump presidency will be numbered in single digits when it comes to months. And that is what they're after. Because Trump is not Hillary and Trump is not Bush, because he's an outsider, and because he's a maverick, because he wants to drain the Washington swamp, that is the reason that the intelligence committees and the FBI and James Comey would grant Michael Flynn immunity, get out of free Dodge card because of the Russian connection. Only reason. Can Flynn deliver Trump? Yes or no? If the answer is yes, then we're in for one hell of a ride over the next 6 to 12 months. If the answer is no, and I strongly suspect the answer is no, then this amounts to nothing. One might remember during the FBI investigation of the Clinton Foundation, the Clintonises, and the various crime syndicates that the Clintons ran, there were at least 5 individuals that we knew about that were granted immunity by the FBI, including Hillary Clinton's former chief of staff. The media did not play that up as a big deal at all when it happened, which they've done for the past 18 hours on cable. How big of an issue is Flynn in the eyes of the mainstream media in asking for immunity? It is bigger than the Hiroshima cloud that was dropped on August the 6th, 1944. It's a big deal by the media. But when the same thing actually occurred with Hillary Clinton and 5 of her top officials were granted immunity by the FBI, it wasn't a big deal at all. It was nothing because the media wanted to elect Hillary and the media did not want to elect Donald J. Trump. Can you smell what I'm cooking? And the reason I say there is no there relative to any criminal misbehavior is the testimony and also the statements of CIA Director Mike Morrell under Obama and Director of National Intelligence James Clapper. They both prepared, on or about January the 6th, a lengthy, binder-thick report on the Russian connection to the Trump campaign, the Russian connection to the campaign after it was successful, and also all the intelligence information of the Russian attempts to hack, so-called hack, the American election, whatever the heck that means, hack. And Clapper and Mike Morrell both said there was no connection between the Trump campaign and efforts by the Russians to hack or otherwise influence, collude in the national election. So I would have to assume that Morrell and Clapper knew all the facts by January the 6th when they issued that report. And they issued it saying there's no there. And may I say this before I take your calls at 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. I live in Cincinnati, Ohio. which shall we say is a battleground state. If you live in Florida, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Iowa, Wisconsin, North Carolina, maybe Virginia, New Hampshire, you're in a battleground state. All during the election, I was here with you 6 of 7 days every week. I was with you reading newspapers, looking at the blog sites, going to the Drudge Report, Newsmax, RealClearPolitics.com. I'd watch Mark Levin TV. I'd listen to Rush. I listen to Sean. I watch Fox News. I watch MSNBC if I have a cluster migraine headache. I got to get it cured somehow, so I'll watch. How big of an issue in Ohio, how big of an issue in the country was the Russian involvement in the American elections in, say, August, September, October? The answer is zero, zilch, nada, did not happen. There was nothing. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. The things that caused us to vote for Donald J. Trump had nothing, zero, zilch, nada to do with Russia and everything to do with the quality and character of Obama/Clinton, and that we had enough. In fact, we had enough of George Bush. We had enough of Clinton. We had enough of Bush 41 saying, read my lips, no new taxes. We had enough of Clinton saying, I never did have sexual relations with that woman, Monica Lewinsky, not one time. I had enough of Bush 43 saying weapons of mass destruction. I had enough of Obama saying, like your plan, keep your plan, like your doctor, keep your doctor. Obamacare was going to lower premiums all across the country. All those things were bald-faced, unmitigated lies. What you and I wanted to do as normal Americans was to put someone in power in Washington that could drain the swamp and not play the Washington game. And that's why we voted for Donald J. Trump in large numbers. That's why we did it. It was not about Russia and their delusions in affecting the election. In fact, it came out to NBC News, reported about 6 hours ago, that officials within former President Barack Obama's administration created a list using serial numbers to document all the classified files related to the Russian election investigation. Now, why would they do that, then spread that information all over the platforms of spy agencies, some 18 different spy agencies? And according to a representative of the Obama administration, the obvious answer was because they wanted to pin down and hurt the incoming Trump administration. Her name is Evelyn Farkas, Farkas, former Obama administration Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Russia and the Ukraine. This woman was stupid enough to go on with Mika, or shall I say Zika Brzezinski, on NBC Morning Joe, and say, among other things, quote, I was urging my former colleagues, and frankly speaking, the people on the Hill, get as much information as you can. Farkas said, adding that her big fear was, quote, if Trump staffers found out how we knew what we knew about the Trump staff dealing with Russians, that they would try to compromise those sources and methods, meaning we no longer have access to that intelligence, unquote. This was an admission by this Farkas lady that the Obama administration collected sensitive intelligence about Russia's connection to the election, especially to the Trump. And the first thing they wanted to do after the election of Trump was to make sure that information would be feloniously leaked to the New York Times and the Washington Post. So, persons acting on the authority of Barack Hussein Obama opened an investigation into Trump's campaign, then the Trump transition, then criminally, feloniously leaked mentions of it to friendly news outlets in an attempt to derail his election. Has anyone asked Obama to apologize for that? It is clear as the nose on your face that a high administration official with Obama, Evelyn Farkas, said with Zika Brzezinski that we collected the data, we gave it a list and serial numbers, and put it all over the federal government to be leaked out with the efforts of hurting the Trump administration. And we know there's no there because CIA Director Mike Morrell and Director of National Intelligence James Clapper both testified there's no there. Clapper, as recently of about 3 weeks ago, was on Meet the Depressed, and he said the same thing. There was no collusion between Trump and the Russians. So what is all this about then? What is all but the immunity deal with Michael Flynn? What's it all about if there's no there? Because the Democrats have got to create weapons of mass distraction to keep your eyes off the central point, that persons acting under the authority of Obama opened a criminal investigation into the Trump campaign in July, August, September, October, and then when the transition took place in November, continued to wrongfully and feloniously gather information about Trump in November, December, and January before they left office. Then they criminally committed felons. Michael Flynn was a victim of a felony, leaked classified information about the Trump so-called connection to Russia to friendly news media outlets, knowing, as Clapper and Morrell knew, that there was no connection. It is a crime for large numbers of Obama staffers to have done that. They committed felonies against Donald J. Trump. So all that's been happening, all the bovine scatology, all this has been an attempt by the Democrats controlling the mainstream media to make sure that you don't understand the point that Obama orchestrated a felonious effort to destroy the Trump campaign before Election Day and then during the transition period when allegedly he was making nice. He wasn't making nice. He was seeking to destroy the presidency of Donald J. Trump because he would roll back EPA. He would shut down the southern border. He would fund the military. He'd bring American pride back to foreign relations. He would repair and replace Obamacare. All those things were an anathema to Obama and his acolytes. So they wanted to destroy the first few months of the Trump transition and now the Trump presidency. And in their minds, aren't they doing it? Every day I watch MSNBC, CBS News, read the New York Times. They're hysterical. Their hair's on fire. They can't wait for the next bombshell. The bombshell is that the Obama administration committed hundreds of felonies against Trump, just like they did against James Rosen, just like they did against the AP, and just like they did against Angela Merkel of Germany when they tapped her telephones. The same stuff went on. This is Watergate, yes, committed by Obama and his acolytes. Obama is serving the role of Richard Milhouse Nixon. And now, as far as what's happening now, I'm watching off to the right CNN with Adam Schiff running in and out of the executive office building. He's waited this long to actually look at the information that the NSC has about the surveillance of the Trump administration, and before that the transition, and before that the campaign, by American intelligence sources, the object of which is to undermine the campaign, the transition, and now the actual presidency. It's incredible to watch. Anyone who gets in their way, they will seemingly destroy. Devin Nunes, I've had him on my show several times. Nunes is a good man. He appears to be a target in what appears to be an endless roster of individuals that the Democrats can go after and systematically disparage, crucify, discredit, destroy, and in a political sense, to neuter them. Nunes, hopefully, will not be neutered. He simply went to the executive office building to look at the actual predicate, the hard information that Obama surveilled and or wiretapped Trump and his acolytes. And he saw it, then he held a news conference. Now, the last week, who waved him into the White House grounds? Who was the name of the person? Is the media asking, what is it? What is the information? Are they doing that? Of course not, because that is where we're headed. That is Obama surveilled Trump directly and indirectly. There was no there of collusion with the communist, with the Russians, as testified to by Morrell and by Clapper. But nonetheless, we're on a mission to destroy Trump. He's not Bush. He's not Clinton. We can't control him. Your comments, if any. Let's continue. It's an honor for me to be here on
Levin.
I'm Bill Cunningham, the great American, in for the great one, Mark Levin. One last thought before I take your calls at 877-381-3811. What kind of world do we live in when the election is underway, July, August, September, October, November, and you have the director of the FBI criminally investigating both candidates? What world are we living in? I can see Clinton being investigated. I can see why they offered 5 of her top aides immunity, because Hillary Clinton in office committed serious felonies. As I watched almost every night, former U.S. attorneys talk about the numerous federal criminal statutes violated by Hillary Clinton and her acolytes. I understand that. But having given immunity 5 times to the Clinton aides, Comey laid out the case why she should be indicted. Then at the end had that butt monkey, but I'm not going to charge her anyway. So when Comey testified about 10 days ago before the Congress, he said he opened an investigation in July of last year of Donald J. Trump. I'd like to know, why was Comey investigating Trump? What was the information that caused the investigation to be launched? Where did he get the idea to investigate Trump? I think that subject wasn't asked by any of those idiotic Republican or, of course, Democratic congressmen. I'd like to know, FBI director, where did the information came from in I guess, June or July that caused you to launch the investigation? It also has been reported that in August, he had a meeting with Valerie Jarrett and the top political people in Obama's White House wanting to write an op-ed for the New York Times or the Washington Post explaining that Russia is trying to influence the election. But that was spiked by Valerie Jarrett and Obama himself. No, Mr. FBI director, this is so bad. Let's keep it going. Let's find out if we can ensnare Trump in wiretaps or surveillance of one type or another to ruin him, and if he gets elected, to ruin his administration, which is exactly what happened. If it was so bad, why did the Obama White House spike the idea of Comey writing the op-ed? Because they wanted it to continue. Let's continue. 877-381-3811. It is indeed a great night to be an American. Let's continue with more. Bill Cunningham, the great American, in for the great one, Mark Levin.
This is the nation's town hall meeting, and you can join in at 877-381-3811.
I'm Billy Cunningham, the great American, in for Mark Levin, the great one. By the way, join me at Levin TV, crtv.com, crtv.com. It is fabulous. It's good. It's like seeds of knowledge for your brain, crtv.com. One last thing before I go to the calls. We have Christine in Alabama. We have JD in Las Vegas, thousands of others. Our phone number tonight is 877-381-3811. One last thought. I'm looking to my right. CNN has on a loop over and over and over again Adam Schiff walking into the executive office building earlier today, then walking out of the executive office building, and no comments yet been made as of this moment by Adam Schiff, the clown, the fool, the congressman from California, the Democrat. Now, why is Nunes being the victim of tar and feathering by the mainstream media and by the Democrats? He said, recent disclosures indicate to him, to Nunes, of new evidence provided to him by sources inside the intelligence community, which shows that members of the Trump transition team were improperly and feloniously monitored by U.S. intelligence agencies following, not before, but following the November election. Now, once Trump had won the presidency, why in the world would one president seek to impede the next? It's because there was such a wide difference between Obama and Trump. Obama, Obamacare. Trump, repeal. Obama, open borders. Trump, shut down the southern border. Obama, defund the military. Trump, strong military. Obama, weak foreign policy. Trump, strong foreign policy. Go down the list. Tax reform. Trump, give me tax reform. Obama wants as much confusion as possible. And so when Obama figured out, he couldn't understand how it could happen, that Trump actually beat his hand-picked successor in Hillary Clinton, He then told the intelligence agencies of the United States government, get as much bad information as is possible against Trump and his major supporters and players within the transition team, and then plant that information like seeds all over the federal government to be criminally leaked. Nuno said, sources inside the intelligence community, which shows members of the Trump transition team were improperly monitoring U.S. intelligence agencies following the November election. He also said, Nuno said, that Obama administration intelligence officials had unmasked, criminally, several Trump transition team members who were swept up unwittingly in the surveillance. In other words, officials within the Obama administration had criminally revealed and disseminated the identities of U.S. citizens who were caught up in otherwise legal surveillance of foreigners, but whose identities should have been legally unmasked, should have remained masked, not out there. And he said, quote, what I have read bothers me, and I think it should bother the president himself and his team, because I think some of it seems to be inappropriate. He said, there seems to be, to me, some level of surveillance activities, but I don't know that it's right. The American people would be comfortable with what he himself had read. And so what he is saying there, I read the information from the NSA. It is obvious that felonies were committed by the Obama administration team to disseminate all over the various agencies unmasking of the individuals who allegedly had contacts with Russia. And by doing so, those were the felonies committed. And I go back to what was said by Morell and by Clapper when they said, guess what? Everything we know, there's no collusion between Trump and Russia, despite their best efforts to find it. So then I ask you this question before I go to the calls. Thousands on hold, millions are listening. I ask this question. What's the end game here? Schiff has seen the last couple hours, 3 or 4 hours, exactly the same stuff Nuno's was shown that got him in such trouble with the media and the mainstream. Now, should he have brought Schiff with him 4 or 5 days ago? Probably. But that's form, not substance. What is it? What did Obama do to Trump? That's the big information that is not in the public domain at all. I'd like to know. Do you think the Democrats want that out? That against the law, Obama and his acolytes wrongfully surveilled the Trump transition team in order to plant negative information like time bombs and IUDs that would go off some point in the future? Of course not. The Democrats don't want that information out. They want to muddy the waters. They want to talk about who waved Nuno's in. Who was the contact? Did he take Uber? Did he take Lyft from the Capitol to the White House grounds to the Executive Office Building, the EOB? How did he get there? The question ought to be, what did you see? What is the information of such a negative character that he came out to say there's a big problem here? That's what's important. And lastly, before I take your calls, Trump is involved in somewhat north of 500 separate businesses. Think about that. I'm involved in maybe 2 or 3. He's involved directly or indirectly in north of 500 businesses. I guarantee you, if you take a bevy, a team of FBI agents and accountants and the IRS and the Security Fraud Division of the U.S. Department of the Treasury, and you spend 9 months or a year or more investigating all those businesses, all those financial transactions, all the net worth statements given to a bank to cause a loan to be issued, talk about all the representations that Donald J. Trump made in the past several years, north of 500 businesses. Do you think it's possible the FBI, if they wanted to get him, could get him? The answer, of course, is yes. The FBI did not want to get Hillary Clinton, despite clear evidence that she committed numerous felonies. They did not want to get her because she was part of the good old boys network, the Bush, the McCains, the Grahams, the Clintons, the Obamas, part of the good old boy network. Republican, Democrats, things go left, things go right, but the bureaucracy, the Washington institutions remain unimpeded. And so the real reason all this is going on is to find something to nail Trump. They look for reasons not to indict Hillary Clinton. They're going to look for reasons to indict Donald J. Trump. He's the outsider. He's the one that wants to cut the EPA by 33%. He's the one that wants to cut certain State Department funding by 40%. He's the one that wants to take 2.1 million employees in the federal government and take it down to 1.3 million. Do you think that 800,000 federal bureaucrats want to hurt Trump? Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm concerned that when the FBI and through the CIA and the intelligence committees and the financial fraud folks at the Department of the Treasury, if they want to get anybody, they can get them. When Comey said about 10 days ago that he opened the investigation in July, I would have said, why'd you open it? What was the information that caused you to do it? Where'd the idea come from? Was there any evidence directly or indirectly that anyone in the Obama administration surveilled directly or indirectly anybody in the Trump administration, the Trump transition, or the Trump campaign? The question wasn't asked. Wasn't asked. If the FBI thus far has spent 9 months on the trail of United States of America versus Donald J. Trump, 9 months, and Comey said 10 days ago, I can't tell you when it's going to end. There's a large, black, dark cloud with lightning striking all over the nation's capital because there's a thought that we're going to get this guy. We can do it. There was a thought about Hillary Clinton. We're not going to get her. We're going to give her a free pass. She's part of the good old boys network. She knows how the games are played. She's not going to cut the federal bureaucracy. She's not going to cut spending. She's not going to do any of that stuff. We're going to let her take the presidency. But with Trump, the shock waves that hit Washington on Wednesday morning about 3 a.m. when DJT came out on stage and spoke, those shock waves incentivized Obama after the election during the transition to gather as much negative information as was possible against the Trumpster and have those bombs explode once he took office over the next several months. And that's the process we're in now as we get ready for April the 1st. They knew what they were doing. And what president surveils a transition team, which Farkas admitted on Zika Brzezinski's show the other day, except to provide the information to be used later to discredit the entire Trump administration? It went from the candidacy, it went to the transition, and now it's the administration. That's the story. I wish CBS, NBC, ABC, I wish the New York Times, the Washington Post would focus on the surveillance of the Trump team and the campaign and the transition and now the administration that Obama maniacs and Clintonistas all over Washington did, are doing, and continue to do because they want to destroy the man who wants to destroy and drain the Washington swamp. That, my fellow Americans, is the big deal. Let's continue. We'll go to the calls now. We have calls from Alabama, Florida, Missouri, Ohio, Las Vegas. If a line becomes available, which it never does, 877-381-3811. Bill Cunningham, the great American, in for the great one, Mark Levin.
Mark Levin.
I'm Billy Cunningham, the great American, in for the great one, Mark Levin, taking a well-earned day off. One last thought before I go back to the calls is that didn't James Comey about 10 days ago confirm the essence of Trump's original tweet on that Saturday morning, that the Trump administration transition campaign was being surveilled? He didn't, of course, mean that Obama himself wiretapped Trump Tower. What he meant is that the Trump campaign in transition was being surveilled by somebody in the federal government. And now Comey said about 10 days ago that, yes, he opened up an investigation in July. I'd like to know, as a normal God-fearing American, when you say you opened the investigation, what does that mean? Did you get wiretaps? Did you have gumshoe agents waiting outside? Did you have subpoenas? Did you impanel a grand jury? What was the core of the, quote, investigation since last July? The answer would have been basically all those things. So Comey's mere confirmation of the investigation vindicates the thrust of Trump's tweet, which has caused the media to go crazy. And no matter how many times the Democrats or CBS News wants to spin it, Obama authorized a multi-agency investigation into a political opponent, which necessarily involved violations of that opponent's privacy, resulting in felonies being committed repeatedly. That is Nixon-esque and has never happened before in American history. One can only ponder, what if it came out in 2008 that George Bush, in order to injure the campaign and the transition and the administration of Barack Hussein Obama, George Bush authorized a multi-agency investigation of Barack Hussein Obama, gathered that information for months, then spread it around the federal government in such a way that it would be leaked. And when it was leaked while he was in office, did not find out who did it, did not say don't do it. In fact, he encouraged it and authorized it. What if Bush had done to Obama what Obama did to Trump? How would the media play that differently? Are you kidding me? It would have been the biggest thing in the world. That Bush administration officials are surveilling Obama? Are you kidding me? Comey admitted that he opened the investigation in July of the Trump campaign's connection to Russia. Now, Trump confirmed what Trump said in his tweet on that Saturday morning about a month ago. He confirmed it. So isn't that like a big deal? And then when Nunez comes out of looking at the source materials and said, yes, there was criminal activity by Obama administration officials in criminally leaking unmasked names to the New York Times and the Washington Post. Isn't that a big deal? Not by the mainstream media. They want to know who waved him into the White House, who put him on the grounds. Why didn't he bring Schiff with him? What? Well, Schiff just left tonight. I'd like to know what Schiff's going to say now. He won't deal with the substance because the substance of this is very injurious to Obama. What hasn't Jeff Sessions? I guess he can't now because he stepped aside and recused himself. Somebody in the Department of Injustice has got to launch a criminal investigation of Valerie Jarrett and those in the Obama administration who launched a multi-agency investigation of a political opponent. And then once the election had happened on November the 7th, it's done. It's over. It continued until January the 6th to try to find information about collusion between Trump and Russia that, according to Clapper and Morrell, did not exist. And the leaking of the information was a felony. We know for a certainty that General Flynn was the victim of a felony. How does the media play that? As they've done with everything with Obama, it's like no big deal. Who cares? It's our guy. It's our guy. And Obama believed all during the campaign, especially that night, whether it was Saturday or Sunday in Philadelphia, when the rock stars went to Philadelphia with Hillary. Remember that? The rock stars were there. Everyone knew Hillary was going to win. And if she won, she would kill any investigation. She would control the Attorney General's office, the CIA, the NSA, the NSC. She would control everything. But a shock took place. We sent a shot across the bow of the Washington establishment and said, we don't want any part of you. Bush, Clinton, Clinton, Bush, we want nothing to do with you. We wanted somebody different. And that's when the Obama administration doubled and tripled down to find dirt on Trump, to launch torpedoes at him once they left office. All the while, you got Obama reaching out his hand to Trump in the Oval Office. Life is good. Trump was saying, look, I think things are going great. November, December, January, things are going well. They were buddies. All the while, Obama was stabbing Trump in the back. We now begin to know what happened, why it happened. But the media will never cover it because it's injurious to their person. And their person is Barack Hussein Obama, Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, John Kerry. That's their guys. Elizabeth Warren, Nancy Pelosi, not covered any way close the way Republicans are covered. How dirty, how dastardly was now the known activities of the Obama administration to stab Trump in the back, which is happening right now. with Flynn and many others. And I think Flynn's going to say essentially nothing injurious to Trump at all, because in my viewpoint, based upon what Morrell and Clapper have said, Trump did nothing wrong. And when he found somebody doing something wrong, like Manafort, he got fired, or Flynn didn't tell my friend Mike Pence the truth, and so he was fired not because of collusion with Russia, but because he didn't tell Mike Pence the truth. Can you smell what I'm cooking? Let's continue. Thousands on hold, millions are listening. We'll go right to the calls, I promise. I'll quit babbling. Heck, I feel like Mark Levin, I'm babbling so much. Number to call is 877-381-3811. Bill Cunningham, the great American. In for the great one, Mark Levin.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hi, Bill Cunningham, the great American, in for the great one, Mark Levin. CRTV.com is wonderful entertainment, also information, CRTV.com, Levin TV. Let's go right to the American people, right to the telephone calls. First of all, Jim in Palm Beach, Florida. Jim in Palm Beach, welcome to the Mark Levin Show. Jim, go ahead.
Thank you, Bill. The American people need to wake up, because what we have going on here is a situation where everybody up in Washington is corrupt, both sides. You know, left and right. And I think they must have a skeleton room up there. Everybody's skeletons sit, and everybody has keys to the closets, and they just have them, pass them around. Everybody's got everybody else's keys. But Trump doesn't have any skeletons in Washington.
Right.
So they can't let him come in there. And when he succeeds, they can't let him succeed, because once he succeeds, the American people realize that he's on the right side, and everything that's been going on, how deep and how bad the swamp is, these people are in trouble up there in Washington. And so they're not going to let him succeed. And,
Jim, they don't want him to get to 1 or 2 years from now. It's going to be obvious his policies work on the southern border, middle-class jobs, middle-class job creation, getting rid of federal rules and regulations, Keystone Pipeline. It's going to be obvious that his policies work. They always work when they're tried. So they got to get to a point where he's out of office by the end of this year. It is sink the SS Trump. Sink the Trump. And so Comey, I hope it's not true, but Jim, I believe Comey, by the end of the summer, is going to ask for a special prosecutor from the Department of Injustice, and then Sessions' replacement is going to be on the horns of a dilemma. See, Comey can't cause an indictment, but he can recommend an indictment to the Department of Injustice. And because Washington wants Trump gone, Republicans and Democrats, I think it's going to happen. Jim, what do you say? Will it happen?
I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. And I told your call screener, and he got a little surprised when I said it. I said the only thing that's going to save this country, we're heading for a civil war. And people need to wake up, because the left, led by Barack Hussein Obama, has been training people. They have paid protesters that's their profession. And we haven't seen nothing yet. We saw with the town halls, they came out in droves with the same game plan in every town hall, shouting down people and getting their point across, to the point where it killed this health care bill, where there was nothing allowed to go through, because the public opinion numbers were so horrible against it that everybody was afraid to do anything. And there's another wave coming out of Barack Obama University, getting ready to do the next wave, and it's going to step up another notch.
Jim, I want to go back in time about a year and a half, and I kept this story that was in the New York Post because I thought, well, this can't be true. The headline is, How Obama is Bankrolling a Nonstop Protest Against Invented Outrage. This story, and this was back in November 14, 2015. The story begins by saying President Obama's presidency has been pockmarked by terror attacks, mass shootings, rioting, looting, and protests. That is no coincidence. It's what the former community organizers saw from day one. It's just going to get worse. It's going to get worse after he leaves office. And I thought, well, this is stupid. I said he will not be able to maintain the invented outrage once he leaves office. What happened to Trump during the transition, now that Evelyn Farkas has spoken, is clearly indicative of the fact that Trump must be stopped and that the nonstop protest, invented outrage continues. Let me read this other part. OFA, formerly Obama for America, has trained more than 10,000 leftist groups who in turn have trained more than 2 million in Alinsky street tactics. The leftist groups organized under 501c4 are tax deductible. In addition, Obama has trained hundreds of thousands of junior agitators through AmeriCorps, a Clinton youth program he dramatically expanded, and through My Brother's Keeper, the racial justice initiative he launched in the wake of the 2012 death of Florida teen Trayvon Martin. So what he's doing now is launching the third Obama term by destroying the Trump presidency. He's got millions of dollars from George Soros. He's got 2 million foot soldiers that show up with Invent an Outrage through social media. You can always find somebody to show up at a meeting. What they're doing now is to stop Trump at all cost. And part of that holy cabal is going to be the Department of Injustice and Comey, who's for 9 months, Comey's been investigating the president-elect and now the president for 9 months, and he says the cloud will continue until I dissipate the cloud. So when you say this is what Obama intended, I have the proof from an article under the date November 14th, 2015, that was in the New York Post. It's incredible. And guess what? It's going to get worse. As Jim just said from Florida, it's going to get worse. Invent an outrage. Let's continue. The line becomes available, 1-877-381-3811. Let's continue now with Roger in South Dakota. Roger in South Dakota, welcome to the Mark Levin Show. Roger, go ahead.
Oh, thank you so much for taking my call, sir. And I appreciate your program, and I appreciate the information that's going out to the United States that you have delivered to us right now. And I believe this Evelyn Farkas and James Comey should both be brought in for questioning at the same time and see if what kind of stories they can come up to cover up with the garbage they've been putting out for Donald Trump and the 31 states that put him in. I would like to see money come in to the RNC or whoever it's necessary to bring money in to buy television time, to put your information on live television all across America and let America know exactly what's going on.
You're not going to get it from the mainstream media. How about this headline at Snopes.com? Did Evelyn Farkas just leak information confirming President Obama spied on President Trump? And this woman, this Evelyn Farkas character, was the Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Russian and Ukrainian issues. So this is the woman who knew that it was time to continue to wiretap and surveil Donald J. Trump, the candidacy, the transition, and now the administration. She admitted it with Zika Brzezinski. She's the one that said it's going on, and she's the one that spread the information along with others all over the Obama administration so it would be leaked. And so when Trump said, I'm being surveilled, I'm being wiretapped, the answer is yes. And Farkas, Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense, said a few days ago on March the 28th, she said on March 28, 2017, yes, we leaked information confirming that Obama spied on Trump. Now, isn't that a big deal? Isn't that a big deal?
Absolutely, sir. And I know that there's money that's going in and it's being matched at the RNC right now. If you contact them, I believe it's being matched 3 times whatever the amount of money that is sent in. With this money, I believe we should be buying television time and let the American people know exactly what's going on. And this Farkas lady now, just today, she was backtracking, and she said that Russia had something to do with filming her or taping her somehow, and that's how it got out.
Right.
And she's now Russia comes into her mistakes. Now she's blaming Russia for her spilling the beans on the Democratic left. And my comment is thank you so much for your program. And I'm on the far right. I'm one of the deplorables and the disgusting ones, according to the Democratic Party.
Well, Roger in South Dakota, thanks for calling. The key part of this is that she conceded and proudly said with Zika Brzezinski that White House officials scrambled to spread information about Russian efforts to undermine the presidential election and about possible contacts between associates of Trump and the Russians across all elements of the government. They had 2 aims: to ensure that such meddling isn't duplicated in future or European elections, and to leave a clear trail of intelligence for investigators to later discover. So there you got it. Now Farkas Evelyn Farkas said this 3 days ago with Zika Brzezinski, is kind of backtracking. Well, I didn't really mean that. I didn't really mean this. Yes, she did. Yes, she did. What president surveils the incoming administration? This is how stupid it is. Obama and Valerie Jarrett knew or should have known that once Trump took power on January the 20th, he would have access to the same information that they were receiving information from, and that he would know after a few weeks had gone by what Obama had done. So the information they had to put out had to be such of a character that it would destroy the Trump administration before it could get its feet on the ground. They organized on the Saturday, the day after the inaugural, the Women's March all over the nation's capital. Every time a Republican congressman shows up at a town hall meeting, all hell breaks loose, all organized by the Obama maniacs and the Clintonistas. And even when my friend and Bill O'Reilly makes a reference to the hairdo of Maxine Waters, Hillary Clinton says that's a racial event. No, it isn't. Does anybody make fun of Trump's hairdo? Is anyone aware of any circumstances where anybody on Saturday Night Live makes any fun of the president's facial gestures or his hair? It happens all the time. But when it's a clown, like Maxine Waters, she's off limits. You can't do it. And when April Ryan, African-American female, asks a question, and from the podium, the presidential press secretary goes at her a little bit like he goes after so many others, he treats her the same way he treats anybody from ABC News, Jonathan Karl, April Ryan, right? Spicer is supposed to do that. So Spicer and Trump want people treated based upon their behavior, not upon their gender or about their racial composition. But Democrats hate to hear such things. It is clear now when you read Evelyn Farkas and what she said. It is clear beyond doubt that Obama authorized a multi-agency investigation into his political opponent and continued it after the transition actively began while stabbing Trump in the back. He did it. And it's bad. It's going to get worse. I'm waiting for Adam Schiff, who saw the information tonight at the executive office building, about what he saw. How does he get away from this thing? At some point, we're going to find out that what I said is true, that Obama authorized a multi-agency investigation in a political opponent, then criminally leaked negative information, including unmasking Americans caught up unintentionally in the wiretaps of Russians. That's what's going to happen. And I would hope the Department of Justice will go after it hard. Let's continue. Take a short break. We'll continue with more. We have calls from North Carolina, Ohio, Las Vegas, Arkansas, Maryland, thousands of other places in between. If a line becomes available, which it hardly ever does, 877-381-3811. Bill Cunningham, the great American, in for the great one, Mark Levin.
Mark Levin.
Bill Cunningham, the great American, in for Mark Levin, the great one. CNN is just now reporting that Schiff met about an hour and a half ago in the Oval Office with the president for 10 minutes, then went to the EOB Executive Office building to view exactly the same materials that were viewed by Nunez about a week ago. And now we're waiting to find out what's in the materials. Nunez has kind of said what's in the materials indicated that there was wrongful activities conducted by the Obama administration against Trump. And I'm waiting now to see if Adam Schiff, the left-wing radical extreme congressman from California, is going to come to the same conclusion that the Obama administration authorized a multi-agency investigation of a political opponent for political purposes in order to assist Hillary Clinton to be elected. To me, that's the humongous story. That's got to, not who invited who in and who saw it, who waved who into the White House. Did he take a Lyft? Did he take an Uber? How did he get there? The key is what is in the information under the Obama administration that caused surveillance of the Trump transition, the Trump candidacy, and the Trump administration that caused Comey, starting in July of last year, to open an investigation of the Trump campaign. It is unprecedented in American history to have the FBI actively investigating both candidates. They were investigating Hillary Clinton for known felonies, and now they launched an investigation in July of the candidacy of the connection between Trump and Russia. I'd like to know, why was it launched? What information did you have that caused the launching to take place? Where'd you get the idea, James Comey, to investigate the Trump campaign? We deserve more. It isn't therefore because Comey admitted to doing that. Doesn't that confirm the tweet that Trump had on that Saturday morning about a month ago? I think so. Let's continue now with Joe and then JD. Joe, go ahead. You're on the Mark Levin Show. Joe, go ahead.
Yes, I've studied politics and history for a long time. This thing is right out of the Saul Alinsky book. What they are doing, they're accusing Trump of the crimes that the Democrats are actually doing. In other words, the Russian thing with Trump is a smokescreen to divert from the tactics, the stuff they're doing. They are stealing information. Okay?
Well, the other thing, my friend, is that the real Russian connection is with the Clintonistas. It was the Clintonistas who gave 20% of the uranium deal from American over to Russian sources for about a $100 million donation to the Clinton Foundation. It was John Podesta's brother who made millions of dollars through a Ukrainian deal, and it was Bill Clinton himself who was paid $500,000 by a Russian oligarch to speak in Moscow. There's the Russian deal. There's the Russian connection. They are what they criticize. You brought up the great point. Whatever they do, they accuse the Republicans of doing what they're doing, but the Democrats have an accusation. The Republicans have the truth.
I have 2 quick points.
Go ahead.
The best thing the president can do right now is fire every Democrat he has under his control. Anybody working there can be fired. Get rid of them right now. And I have no idea who's going to be good enough to investigate this. I certainly wouldn't trust the FBI.
Well, you know, Comey is a rock star in his own mind. He thought he was controlling who was going to be the president. Every U.S. attorney that was on the cable shows that I knew, and I spent 8 years as an assistant attorney general, everyone that I spoke to said, that's indictable, that's indictable, that's indictable. Whenever he went through his presentation, which took about 45 minutes, that's indictable. She committed numerous felonies. But because Comey wanted Hillary in the White House, he gave it the old but and then decided not to do it. Comey wants Trump gone, so Comey launched an investigation last July to gather information to destroy Donald J. Trump. And that's what he's doing. And I contend, my friend Joe, that if anybody in the FBI would commit significant resources to any business leader who is involved in more than 500 companies, you will be able to find out information of an indictable character at some point. It's the way things operate. Maybe you gave a false financial statement. Maybe the resume wasn't correctly. Maybe you made a false statement on some application to make a loan. You can always find something. Let's continue with more. If a line becomes available, 877-381-3811. Bill Cunningham, the Great American, in for Mark Levin.
Mark Levin, a proud fanatic for the Constitution. Call him now at 877-381-3811.
Little Bon Jovi. I'm not sure John Bon Jovi would enjoy Mark Levin that much, but nonetheless. By the way, July the 4th, Mark's latest book is coming out. I hope to get an advance copy so I can read it quickly. It's a Rediscovering Americanism, Mark Levin book coming out the 4th of July, of course. Catch him every night on crtv.com. That is Levin TV. JD's coming up next, then Greg and Johnny, Tyler and Joe. One last quick thought. Unlike many investigations that may take weeks or months because of forensic testing, maybe a little blood, a little DNA, may take 6-8 weeks to get the results back, in real time, as the various intelligence agencies are gathering data against the Trump campaign and the Trump transition in real time, they know at that moment whether there's criminal activity being committed by the Trump transition or the Trump campaign in real time, because you're wiretapping Russian sources, then inadvertently these Americans are caught up in it, then leaked criminally to the New York Times. But nonetheless, it doesn't take months and months and months to read a transcript of a conversation between Flynn and the Russian ambassador, does it? It's in real time. There it is, yay or nay. And in real time, by January the 20th, you had two leading acolytes in the Obama administration say there's no there. Nothing, zero, zilch, nada. Doesn't exist. That's Morrell and Clapper. They both said no collusion. So what's being investigated now as we head toward April? And the purpose is to keep a perpetual dark cloud over the Trump administration to slow him down so he can't undo the damage done by Obama. And Comey is part of that effort. Let's continue with more. We have J.D. and then Greg. And J.D., welcome to the Mark Levin Show, hosted by the great American Bill Cunningham. J.D. in Las Vegas, please go ahead.
Thank you, Billy. What a privilege to be on the Great One Show with a great American, Billy C., who I listen to every Sunday night from 7 to 10 here in Las Vegas, my time.
God bless America.
You know, the biggest crime here is this woman, Dr. Evelyn Farkas, in my opinion, made this statement on March the 2nd or 3rd. The national media has committed a crime of omission. None of the NBC, CBSs, the Washington Post, the New York Times have committed a crime of omission because none of them have covered them. And this fool today not had the audacity on your good friend Sean Hannity's show, talking to two people that he knows that know her, Rick Unger and another person, that the Russians have now tampered with the tape of the live show with
Zika Brzezinski?
Yes, that is her explanation today.
What? No, you can't. Now, wait a minute. Rick, not even Rick Unger would say such stupidity. No, so she's now claiming that the Russians tampered with the March 2nd interview with Zika Brzezinski?
I wrote it down.
What?
Jeffrey Lord on the Hannity radio show, along with Rick Unger. The Russians may have come up with a video on CNBC in a statement she made to Rick Unger. She said the video was edited, and she said she was cut off on the TV show. And when it was clear that Mika Brzezinski said, "Thank you very much, goodbye," the reaction of Mika Brzezinski was like she didn't say anything wrong when she said that we were there wanting to know what the Trump people were doing, and they were monitoring that information. It is out. You're a trial attorney. What would be the question, and how would you bring her in? Because I fear that they could bring her in with Nunes and show her the tape, and she would take the Fifth Amendment if she was asked if that was her making those remarks.
Well, Farkas needs to be asked if she was one of the 6 Obama administration officials who said to the New York Times, "We are racing now to preserve the Russian trail." New York Times said they had 6 former and present officials of the Obama administration racing to preserve the Russian trail. Now, what was the Russian trail? What was it? It had to be surveillance, had to be transcripts, had to be wiretaps. That is what Trump was talking about a month ago when he said he was being wiretapped, which means surveilled by the Obama administration. And Evelyn Farkas, Secretary of Defense, said, yes, we were surveilling. In fact, we're racing to preserve the Russian trail. Well, what is the Russian trail if Trump's wrong about his tweet? What Comey confirmed that he started investigating in July. And what is the investigation? Was it wiretaps? Was it observance? What was the investigation? How many agents were on it? Where's the results of the investigation? Whatever they were, Clapper said by January the 20th, there was no collusion. And nothing has happened since that date. So what in the hell is Comey investigating?
Well, number one, we don't we don't know, but I certainly want to say one other thing, if I may, about General Flynn, a patriot. All ex-military, I think, should stand with the patriot, General Flynn. I hope the reason he's going there, and I believe the reason he's going there, is to clear his good name and go out as the patriot that he is. And I want to give a shout out to two other your friends that are real patriots, riding away with Dave out of Columbus, and your good buddy Wayne Allen Root, who's going national April the 10th with his radio show.
Well, JD, thanks for your call. Let me say this also about this whole folderol. Is there a there? What is the there? What is it? In other words, what did Adam Schiff look at tonight at the Executive Office Building? According to Nunez, it was information that indicated surveillance took place by the Obama administration on the transition team of Donald J. Trump. Now, is Adam Schiff going to say at some point what he saw? Not concerned about who waved him in, who didn't wave him in, how did Nunez get there? Will the media deal with the fact of what is it? And if it is true, as Evelyn Farkas said with Zika Brzezinski and others, if it is true that Obama surveilled the Trump transition team after his election, isn't that a bombshell of Watergate proportions? Isn't it? Let's continue. We have Greg in Fort Smith, Arkansas. Greg, you're on the Mark Levin Show with Bill Cunningham. Greg, please go ahead.
Bill Cunningham, you're a great American.
God bless you, and God bless the Razorbacks.
Thank you, sir. Hey, the thing that I don't understand, that I'm scratching my head over every single day, is it seems like nobody cares about any of this stuff. They don't talk about it. I think maybe partially they're afraid to talk about it because everyone is so polarized.
It hurts their guy. It hurts Obama, hurts Clinton, and they don't like it. They want to help them. They want them back in power. They want to smear and crucify Trump. They don't care about the country. They care about ideology, and Trump doesn't represent their ideology.
That's exactly right. And one theory that I've come up with, or what it seems like, is that politics, especially as it relates to Washington, D.C., is nothing more than another reality show. I think that the things that are happening in D.C., like the things that we're discussing, are so far removed that people are not connecting the decisions that are being made, the actions that are being taken, and some of the illegal things that are being done. They don't see that as really impacting their lives, and instead everything is reduced to the good guys and the bad guys. And, of course, my side of the good guys, we don't care that Nancy Pelosi said that no one gets to see what's in the Obamacare bill until they release the bill. But when you talk about the most recent health care bill, she wants to know everything about it. And as soon as you start pointing these things out to people who lean the other way, it's like it doesn't compute. It's like they're unable to calculate it, and they go back to just attack. And I think that Americans, by and large, lack either the will or just the intelligence to really dig down into what's really going on, and they're reduced to just rooting for their team. No matter what they do that's bad, as long as their team's winning, they don't see hypocrisy. They don't see anything that their guy or their people do as wrong. All they want to do is point out what they think the other side is doing wrong, and unfortunately, a lot of those people are just drinking the Kool-Aid from the main media outlets and the people that control the messaging out of D.C. on the Democrat side of the aisle.
That's right. Greg, great call, great take. Thanks for calling. One thing I would say, we have important issues in this country. We have terrible problems on the southern border with opioid addiction. We have a budget deficit of $2 billion a day, every day. We have a debt of $20 trillion. We have unfunded liabilities north of $100 trillion. We have a broken military. We got serious problems in the roads and the bridges. We got serious difficulties with unfunded liabilities, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. We got middle-class non-wage growth. We have millions and millions of Americans that can't find work adequate to their preparation, and we have 5 to 6 million jobs open because Americans largely don't want to work. You put these big problems together, compare the coverage of the cable news outlets and the mainstream media to these real issues compared to what they've done to Trump for the past 75 days. We got major, major problems in this country, which is why Trump was elected. Maybe if the media spent time on the massive crime waves in immigrant communities, spend time on what it means to borrow $2 billion a day of brand new money to fund government programs we can't afford. Take time to investigate the military, how it's broken by the budget cuts under Barack Hussein Obama. Look at the foreign policy disaster we're in all over the world because of Obama. Look at the trafficking of drugs on practically every street corner in America. Take a look at Obamacare and its failures with skyrocketing premiums and lack of coverage. Deal with the real issues that you and I care about, kitchen table issues. Compare the coverage by the mainstream media of those important matters compared to what they're doing to Trump. And it's despicable. Greg, thanks for your call. Let's continue with more. If a line becomes available, 877-381-3811. Bill Cunningham, the Great American, in for the great one, Mark Levin.
Mark Levin.
Hi, Billy Cunningham, the Great American, in for Mark Levin, CRTV.com, Levin TV. Watch it every night if you will. I do. It's wonderful. One last thought before I go back to the calls, and that is this. I'm looking to my right at CNN. Headline is, Follow the Trail of Dead Russians. So during the break, I'm listening to Aaron Burnett talk about the trail of dead Russians. There's 140 million Russians. Probably every day, about 2,000 Russians die every day. In America, 3,000 Americans die on average every day. 3,000 Americans dead every day. She's making the point that somehow 8 prominent Russians have been killed or have mysteriously dropped over dead of a heart attack since the U.S. elections, asking a guest whether or not there's some Trump connection. CNN, the Clinton News Network, the concocted news network, is implying or stating that the president may be involved directly or indirectly in killing 8 Russians. That's how the conspiracy theories operate. Now that is fake news right there. Former FBI agent links deaths of 8 Russians to the Trump election, as if Trump was somehow responsible for certain Russian ambassadors dropping dead of a heart attack, getting shot in the back of the head in Turkey. Somehow, the Trumpster is responsible for the deaths or murders of 8 Russian diplomats. What? That's how bad it is. Let's continue. Thousands on hold, millions are listening. Let's go to Johnny in Baltimore, Maryland, the home of the Terrapins. Johnny in Baltimore, welcome to the Mark Levin Show. Please go ahead.
Hey, Mr. Cunningham, it's an honor to speak to you on the Mark
Yes,
Levin Show. I remember several years back being in my patrol car at night on Sunday and listening to you, and I thought, I like this guy.
Thank you.
Well, anyway, Billy, I'd just like to say I really don't know. I don't trust Speaker Ryan. I don't know. I just get uneasy. I don't know if you've met the man or you.
I've met him. I well intended. The fact that Romney would pick him as the VP tells you all you need to know about Paul Ryan.
It just seems like he's trying to bring Trump towards the swamp, and it's like the Freedom Caucus isn't your enemy, President Trump. The enemy is these rhinos who are almost as bad, and God forbid I say it, but they're almost as bad as the liberals because they didn't want Trump to win either. It's like they're all part of a club, and Trump's not in the club, and they're doing their damnedest to get him out of the club. And it's kabuki theater all around, the whole thing, the Russian thing, everything's Trump's fault, nothing's theirs. It's all BS.
Well, Johnny, when difficulties were everywhere in October, when NBC News kept for 11 years the Trump tape with Bush and then released it, and no one's ever investigated NBC News to say, why did you hold this Trump tape for 8 years? Why did you leak it to the Washington Post? What was your motivation in doing so? When all that was going on, the only group that stuck with Trump was the Freedom Caucus. Ryan didn't stick with him. The Bushies didn't stick with him. Romney didn't stick with him. When all Hades was breaking loose, the Freedom Caucus, Jim Jordan, etc., they stayed with Donald J. Trump. Whoever told Trump to go against the Freedom Caucus should be fired. That was a mistake. The Freedom Caucus, I think, is the heart and soul of the Republican Congress. I love the Freedom Caucus. They're men and women of principle and ideas, and for Trump to go after them yesterday or today was a political blunder. I love the Freedom Caucus.
Right on, Mr. Cunningham. You're a great American, and the conservatives of Maryland feel the same way.
All right, thank you, Johnny. And Trump is imperfect. He's not the guy that I supported in the primary. I was more of a Ted Cruz kind of a guy. Ted Cruz was my guy. I liked him better. There was something dark about him, but there was such a rejection by the Republican electoral voter and by the general populace that business as usual could not happen. There was only one candidate on that stage who had never held or wasn't holding political office, and that was Donald J. Trump. Every other one either held political office or were in office. There was such a rejection of Washington politics by Democrats and Republicans that we finally got a president not of Washington who could go there and drain the swamp and make America great again. And so now both parties, the Republican rhinos and Paul Ryan, along with the Democrats, are working hard to undermine the presidency of Donald J. Trump because ideologically it doesn't fit. All you need to know about Ryan is that Romney picked him to be his VP, and they lost magnificently. Wasn't even close. And so Trump was wrong to send out the tweet attacking 3 members of the Freedom Caucus. He should not have done it. And by doing so, I think he hurt himself a little bit, but it is what it is. Nobody's perfect. The only perfect man was hung to a tree about 2,000 years ago. Let's continue with more. Phone number 877-381-3811. Bill Cunningham, the great American. In for the great one, Mark Levin.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Billy Cunningham, the great American, in for Mark Levin, the great one. Listen to Mark Levin every Monday through Friday right here on this great radio station of yours, and also watch him every night on CRTV.com, Levin TV, CRTV.com. One last thought before I go back to the American people. We have Tyler and Dennis and Benny and many others coming up. During the 8 years of the Obama maniacs not covered by the lapdogs in the mainstream media, you had for the first time in American history an attorney general, the nation's chief law enforcement officer, held in contempt of Congress for lying about Fast and Furious and not giving documents. First time in American history. Can you imagine if Bush's AG or if Trump's AG, Jeff Sessions of Alabama, would be held in contempt of Congress? It would be the biggest story in the world. They would never stop. Hysterical. Hair's on fire. But the mainstream media generally attacked the Republicans for a racial act in causing the contempt citation against the black attorney general. That was no big deal. During the middle of an investigation, a criminal investigation of a spouse, Loretta Lynch, a full-blown clown, meets with Bill Clinton in Arizona when it's real hot on a plane and speak for 45 minutes about their grandchildren. That may last about 2 minutes. And the mainstream media didn't care about that either. No big deal. You had Lois Lerner, one of the officials, one of the high officials of the Internal Revenue Service, take the Fifth Amendment to shield criminal liability before a Senate and House committee, Lois Lerner, because she headquartered and quarterbacked efforts by the IRS to knock down and audit and to hurt the political opponents of Barack Hussein Obama. Did the mainstream media go through days and days of analysis why the IRS officials should take the Fifth Amendment, shielding criminal liabilities? Are you kidding me? No big deal at all. Now compare those two to Michael Flynn taking a telephone call from the Russian ambassador on December the 29th. The media coverage of Flynn has been breathless. The media coverage of Loretta Lynch, Eric Holder, Barack Hussein Obama, and other Obama acolytes has been non-existent, especially Eric Holder, who's the worst attorney general in the nation's history. He made John Marshall look like Chief Justice John Marshall. What happened with Holder was unbelievable. Unbelievable when the chief law enforcement officer is held in contempt of Congress for lying and not providing documents. That guy was despicable, absolutely despicable, and held in contempt, and the mainstream media largely ignored it because it didn't fit their agenda. They kept blaming race behind everything. Flynn took a telephone call from the Russian ambassador, and he may have spoke about the sanctions. What's wrong with that? What is wrong with Flynn speaking with dozens and dozens of foreign countries' ambassadors, prime ministers, and the rest? It happens all the time. No big deal. We know there's a Russian connection with Hillary Clinton, who sold the nation's uranium, 20% of it, for a $100 million donation in the Clinton Foundation. We know that, but that's no big deal. So let's continue. So CNN, 10 minutes ago, lead. Follow the trail of dead Russians. 8 dead Russians since Obama left office and since Trump took over. And they're blaming Trump for the murder or the mayhem in Russia committed by I'm sure by Vlad the Terrible Putin, who's a vicious thug and a criminal. He did it, probably killed these Russians, at least some of them. And Trump had nothing to do with it. Let's continue with your calls. Phone number is 877-381-3811. And by the way, I love Curtis Sliwa. He's a bit liberal for me, a bit on the left side, him and Kuby, but nonetheless, I love Curtis Sliwa. Let's continue with more. We'll go to Tyler. Let's go to Tyler in North Carolina. It's been there about an hour. Then Dennis and Benny. Tyler, the home of the Tar Heels. Welcome to the Mark Levin Show. Please go ahead.
Home of the 82nd Airborne, Fort Bragg, North Carolina.
God bless you, and God bless those fine men and women.
That's right, Bill. Listen, Bill, 2 things. One, how to give the government back to the people. Term limits, yes. Term limits.
Never happened, though, because the Congress got to pass it out. The Congress themselves, 2/3 of the House, 2/3 of the Senate, 3/4 of the states, the congressmen themselves will never vote themselves out. It's not going to happen.
That's the only way the government goes back to the people, with strict regulations on becoming a lobbyist. It's prohibited. Number 2, how to deal with the media. Look, it's an unconventional president. It's 24/7 anti-Trump. It's constant during the news brief. Cancel the news briefs, the daily briefs. No more press briefs. Let Spicer give him the president's agenda written once a week. Spicer answers a question from the people. Fill the press room with a cross-section of Americans and answer their questions. Televise that. The press can sit in another room and report on the concerns and the needs of the people. But cancel the daily briefings. Get rid of them.
And, you know, Tyler, I'm watching this afternoon, and once again, CNN and Fox News, MSNBC stops what they're doing. They go to Sean Spicer being baited by the mainstream media, asking gotcha questions. We get no light. All we get is heat. I love your idea. Do it once a week. Do it for 45 minutes. Get different people in there. But the Jonathan Karls of this world want their chops on asking a got me question to Sean Spicer. He shouldn't play the game.
They're losing the PR battle. And look, this is gonna start to affect public opinion. 1 in every 2 voters voted for Trump. So we're out here, but we're not being heard. So Trump has got to rethink this. He's got to think completely different. And he's got to say, you know what, we're going to do this differently. And Spicer's going to say, listen, we're tired of being attacked on a daily basis. We're here for one reason, and that's to serve the people. And once a week, we're going to fill this room with a cross-section of Americans, and we're going to answer their questions, and you can report on that. And that's the end of it. That's it.
He ought to stop it. He's not helping himself. You can't have dozens and dozens of highbrow reporters firing stupid questions at you minute after minute, hour after hour, and come out anyway looking but bad. He talked about Evelyn Farkas today, former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense, who admitted with Zika Brzezinski that they spread the Russian information all over the federal government. Now, when they spread the Russian information, where did they get it from? From wiretaps? From surveillance? What Trump said is correct, and it was confirmed by Comey when he said he launched an investigation starting last July, and it was confirmed by Evelyn Farkas on March the 2nd. But the media doesn't answer that either, do they, Tyler? They don't report that.
and he's not going to get a fair shake. You're outnumbered,
They hate
50 to 1. I mean, you can only turn on Fox. I mean, so they're not going to get a fair shake no matter what they do. So they've got to think outside the box, and they've got to shake it up, just like Trump was going to do when he came to Washington. Shake up this situation. Don't allow them to attack you daily. Roll up your sleeves. Work on the main issues. Work on the problems that you promised you'd solve, and let the media bite it and let them just discuss it amongst themselves. What they're going to have to do is they're going to have to discuss the people's questions once a week. That's what they're going to have to report on.
How about how about an interview with Mark Levin? I'd get Mark Levin, and I would tell Graham, and I would tell McCain, and I would tell Ryan and McConnell, they are not representing the American people who put Trump in power. McConnell, Ryan, you throw in McCain and Graham, they don't represent normal God-fearing Americans. They represent Washington. And I wish Trump would come to Levin, go more to Savage, go more to Hannity, speak to Rush, come on Laura's show, come on my show, do things to actually talk to the American people who voted for you. That would make more sense. Tyler, thanks for your call. Let's continue now. Let's go to Dennis in, I think, Connecticut. Dennis in Connecticut, welcome to the Mark Levin Show. Dennis, please go ahead.
Hey, Bill, you just stole my thunder. But what I was going to say is, in respect to the previous two callers, not Tyler, I don't blame the media. The one I'm upset with is McCain and the other Republicans. And I remember when McCain was president, I don't know which rally it was, but there was a gentleman who stood there, and I believe he pointed at him and said, "We are ticked off at Washington, and you have to do something about it." And since then, they have done absolutely nothing. What I'm upset with, and I can't believe if Henry Waxman and Barney Frank were there, and this was a Democrat, they would be calling hearings left and right. So I can't believe these guys aren't screaming the way that the Democrats screamed about Schooner Libby with the Valerie Plame issue.
Democrats... Dennis, you're breaking up. I got to let you go. But the Democrats would never attack other Democrats. It doesn't happen. Only Republicans have circular firing squads. Only Republicans attack their own. And to have McCain go on foreign soil and take shots at Trump, to have on a regular basis McConnell and Ryan and others trying to educate Trump about the ways of Washington, we don't want him educated. I want Trump to be Trump. We put him there for a reason. We didn't put him there to be a rhino or to be Ryan Light. Paul Ryan was selected by Mitt Romney to be his VP for a reason. And the reason is Paul Ryan represents the cloth coat Republican, country club Republican Party, and that is not what we want as normal God-fearing Americans. Let's take one more call, then we'll take a break. Let's go to Benny in the great state of Florida. Benny in Florida, welcome to the Mark Levin Show. Please go ahead.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Cunningham. I'm a faithful Mark Levin listener, and I want to let you know now that I am a black American. So Mark does have some black American conservatives.
I'm sure he does. I'm sure he does. Go ahead.
To the show. One of the things that really upset me is that I am really upset with Trump. I was a Cruz supporter. My wife and I, we protect Cruz supporters and everything, but we voted for Trump and everything to keep Hillary from winning. But one of the things, I am really upset with Donald Trump and everything for bashing and trashing the Freedom Caucus. They're the ones that have stuck by him. And I think, in my opinion and everything, he should never trust Paul Ryan. Paul Ryan is part of the problem. Mitch McConnell is part of the problem. Lindsey Graham and John McCain, they are part of the problem. And they don't have his best interest in mind. And then on top of that, Dick Durbin, Chuck Schumer, they are part of the problem, and they're part of the establishment. And one of the other things that I like to say as well is that, like when you look at Donald Trump and everything, when it came to this health care bill, like I didn't see not one I'm not a doctor and everything. I'm a veteran. I'm a retired veteran and everything. I'm pro-America. I'm pro-veteran. I'm pro-Constitution. I'm pro-USA flag. But I did not see any practicing physician in that meeting. I didn't see any of the people that was affected by Obamacare who have lost their insurance or either paying sky-high premiums for anybody else. And then on top of that, the people from Atlas Medical or some of the other organizations like Medishare and everything. None of those people were invited.
None.
And I believe that bill and everything, it was written by insurance companies and pharmaceutical lobbyists to line Paul Ryan's pockets and Mitch McConnell.
Well, Benny, let me say this. Ryan Care was an unmitigated disaster that 17% of us supported. You can't have Obamacare light, call it Ryan Care. The CBO, which I half trust, and I only mean half trust, said there'd be 14 million Americans who would lose their health care next year, 25 million in the next 3 or 4 years. Health care premiums in the employer-based system would be going up the next 3 years. I think in a sad way, by the Freedom Caucus, it saved the Republican Party next year from facing a debacle. If the Ryan Care had passed, you would have about 14 to 25 million Americans voting against Republicans because they're losing health insurance coverage, and you would have individuals in the employer system, 200 million strong, with premiums still going up, affected in a negative way. Nobody benefited from Ryan Care. Nobody. The Freedom Caucus was right, and Ryan was wrong. Thank you for your call, Benny. Let's continue with more. If a line becomes available, 1-877-381-3811. Bill Cunningham, the Great American, in for Mark Levin.
Mark Levin.
Well, let's continue now. Bill Cunningham, the Great American, in for the great one. Mark Levin taking a well-deserved Friday night off. I'll be with you for another 35 minutes or so. CRTV.com is Mark Levin TV. That's CRTV.com. Check it out. It's wonderful stuff. One thing before we go back to the American people, who I love so well and served so long, with Bill and Rob and Robert and many others, at 877-381-3811. The core claim that Trump made in his tweet about a month ago is true. Confirmed by Evelyn Farkas, former Obama Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Russia and the Ukraine, when she said that, quote, I'm urging my former colleagues and, frankly speaking, the people on the Hill to get as much information out as you can. She went on to add that her biggest fear was, quote, if Trump staffers found out how we knew what we knew about their Trump staff dealing with Russians, that they would try to compromise those sources and methods, meaning we no longer have access to that intelligence, unquote, my words, to leak. And so Farkas said that the Obama administration during the transition was in the business of gathering intelligence from the Trump transition team, which is the essence of the underlying tweet by Donald J. Trump, which demonstrated that persons, and Evelyn Farkas admitted this, acting under the authority of Barack Hussein Obama, opened an investigation into the Trump campaign, then criminally, feloniously leaked negative information to friendly news media outlets. No question about it. After Comey testified, there were two clashing headlines that came out in the Washington Post. One headline said, Comey denies Obama ordered wiretapping on Trump. The other one said, the FBI is investigating Trump's links to Russia. So they're investigating and then they're denying it. You can't have it both ways. You know, if Republicans like Paul Ryan were less feckless and docile to the media-determined parameters of any discussion put out by CNN, MSNBC, they would have kept the focus on the outrageous misbehavior of Obama investigating the opposing party's candidate at the height of an election effort. And really, it got worse during the transition. According to Farkas, it got worse. The first instincts of Republicans is always to distance themselves from Trump. Democrats would never engage themselves in such malarkey. So the central fact tonight, Adam Schiff went to the EOB to look at the information. What did Obama know, and when did Obama know it? That's the central question. And he knew a lot. And so while patting Trump on the back during the transition, Obama was stabbing him in the back. He was the one orchestrating the information, and Evelyn Farkas his Undersecretary of Defense confirmed it with Zika Brzezinski on March the 2nd in that interview. Let's continue with more. If a line becomes available, 877-381-3811. One of the great joys I have in life is pinch hitting for the great one. I tell you what, let's continue with more. 30 minutes remain. Bill Cunningham, the Great American, live with you for Mark Levin.
Mark Levin, the fact checker of the left. Call him now at 877-381-3811.
Let's continue now with the American people and check out Mark Levin 24/7, CRTV.com, CRTV.com. Let's continue now with Rob in Anchorage, Alaska. Then Robert. Rob, welcome to the Mark Levin Show. Please go ahead.
Yes, hi, Mr. Cunningham. It's great to talk with you. I'm calling from Alaska. A lot of my friends have some questions regarding the director of the FBI, Mr. Comey.
Yeah.
As with the CIA director, I always thought that these department heads or agency heads served at the pleasure of the president.
No, that's not true.
Okay.
No, this is the difference. When the enabling legislation was passed about the FBI director, unlike the CIA, whatever it is, cabinet officers, the Congress and the president signed a law that gave the FBI director a 10-year specified term. And then you can be extended if by agreement of all parties. So he's in the middle of a 10-year term. He's not at this point subject to removal by the president. He could be impeached, which is indicted by the House, removed by the Senate. But he's not subject to the whim of the president to serve or not, because he's in the middle of a 10-year term as FBI director. He can be impeached, or Trump could ask for his resignation. Then it would be up to James Comey to give it or not. But no, if you're a CIA director, if you're Secretary of Defense, Attorney General, you serve at the pleasure of the president. Now, on the other hand, if you're the FBI director, you got a specified 10-year term, in which case that you don't serve at the pleasure of the president, and he can't be dismissed except by impeachment process.
So I appreciate the explanation. I thought it would be the same as the CIA director, but you've explained it well, and maybe that's the direction we need to go, is an impeachment based on evidence from Hillary and Hillary-gate, so to speak.
It's amazing. You know, Rob, wasn't it amazing that he went over a laundry list of crimes committed by Hillary Clinton, provable crimes? The FBI gave to 5 high-ranking officials in the Clinton Secretary of State and Clinton Foundation immunity 5 times. The media didn't make that a big deal at all during the campaign when the FBI gave immunity to the Clintonistas. That was no big deal at all. And having gone through a laundry list of felonies committed by Hillary Clinton, he gave her a Texas El Paso. He gave the butt monkey at the end and said, but no reasonable prosecutor would take the case. Well, I've been an assistant attorney general. Every reasonable prosecutor I know would have taken the case. But see, Comey in Washington wanted Hillary elected, so they didn't punch her ticket. They don't want Trump in office, which is why I think he's in trouble. He's in trouble not because of what he did, but he's in trouble because Washington wants him gone, Republicans and Democrats. Rob, I think that's the problem.
I think it's very easily provable that this is high crimes and misdemeanors and malfeasance in office on Comey's part, easily proved, and I think the House of Representatives can do that. So.
Well, you know what the media would do? If Trump asked for his resignation and Comey said no, then it went to the House. There'd have to be a 2/3 vote of the House and a 2/3 vote of the Senate. The Democrats in the House would never vote. The country would come to a standstill. It would be like the Saturday Night Massacre. Heck, when Trump asked for the resignation of that Yates, it was called like the Sunday Night Massacre. The media went crazy. The media would not put up with Comey being removed. And Comey, if you investigate this thing for 9 months, which Comey has done, and still can't say when it's going to be concluded, you're not doing your job. Rob, we got to go. Thanks for your call. Let's move on to Robert from Long Island, New York. And Robert, you're on the Mark Levin Show. Please go ahead.
Yes, hi. How are you? Very
good, Robert.
Look, You know, we are all for Trump, but what I'm seeing is the underlying story. The underlying story being both sides seem to be arguing and going after all of these issues, but what about the issues of his first 100 days? At the end of it, he'll have nothing done but fighting off the fight.
Well, isn't that the plan? Isn't that the plan of the Democrats and some Republicans to so ensnare Trump that he can't enforce the agenda for which he was elected? Isn't that the plan?
It seems so, and it seems that somehow he is a great delegator, but for some reason they're not even going with him on any kind of delegating authorities to other people in his staff to take care of what I call a sort of minor issue compared to where our country is heading. What's going on in the China Sea? What's happening in Europe? They're talking all about this like we're a bunch of jokesters over here.
How about North Korea? About to launch a plutonium-based nuclear weapon. We have serious problems with Russia and China and North Korea and Germany. We have serious problems in Yemen, Iran, Iraq. We got serious issues with the budget, with the Defense Department, with the southern border, with Obamacare, with middle-class incomes not rising. We got serious problems, but every solution Trump wants is something Washington does not want. So they keep tying him down with irrelevancies because the long game is to wait out his presidency and get the Democrat elected in 2020. That's the long game.
This is terrible because what happens with the media that keeps jumping on the bandwagon as if they're feeding off of it.
Well, the media's hair is on fire, hysterical. I mean, the headline I just saw on CNN, "Follow the Trail of Dead Russians." Aaron Burnett did a story about 8 Russians that had died of heart attacks or had been killed, and they're indirectly blaming Trump for killing Russians. It's asinine. It's crazy. Robert, thanks for your call. Let's continue. We have AJ in Houston, Texas. AJ in Houston, Texas, welcome to the Mark Levin Show. AJ, please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. If you can clarify a little bit about the collusion that everybody's talking about between Russia and Trump campaign, is that what kind of collusion are they talking about? I mean, how is it possible for an outside country and a candidate to come together to do something to disrupt the course of the election?
Well, AJ, what's the something? I live in a battleground state of Ohio. I saw nothing in the months leading up to the election of collusion from the damn Russian heathens, atheists. I saw nothing. What is the collusion? What does collusion mean? What is that?
Exactly. So that's the question everybody should be asking. That okay, you're talking about the collusion, but what collusion are you talking? I mean, that's the question that even the Republicans should be asking. That okay, what did Russia do?
Tell me.
I mean, did they go and change the voting machine?
No.
Or did they gave money to the voters to kind of vote one way?
No.
What collusion you have to define before you can look into a problem. You're just going there with a thought that there is a problem. But what is it?
Yeah, you know, AJ, you live in Texas, which is not a battleground state. I live in Ohio. No president has won the presidency without winning Ohio. So if there was, quote, collusion going on, it would have been here in Ohio. I like to know what it was. I didn't see it. It wasn't on Facebook. It wasn't on Twitter. It wasn't on talk radio. It wasn't on television. It wasn't on the blog sites. It wasn't on Drudge or Newsmax. Where was the collusion? And if there was collusion, tell me what it was. Well, I voted for Trump because of the alternative. He wasn't my favorite candidate. Ted Cruz was. But nonetheless, I voted for Trump. If there was collusion, can somebody tell me what it was? What was it?
Exactly. So why do you think Trump White House is not asking that question? Why is his press secretary not asking that question?
I don't know. Did they put something in the water in Ohio and North Carolina and Pennsylvania and Iowa? Was it some microwave? Was it some subliminal message? Or was it something coming to me from the ether? What was it that caused me to vote for Trump and not vote for Hillary? What was it that caused 700,000 plus Ohioans to vote for Trump? If it was collusion, what the heck was it? What was the information out there in the ether that changed my vote? And the answer is, AJ, nobody knows what it is. Did you sense any collusion in Texas?
No. I mean, this is so stupid. I mean, if you think about it. Now, let me ask you one more question on that. I mean, do you think, I mean, that Trump is surrounded by a bunch of, he's supposed to surround himself with really smart people. That's what he has said all along. But it looks like that he has surrounded himself with a bunch of idiots who are not responding properly to, or not advising him. It's so obvious. I mean, if you and me, who are common people, you are a little bit smarter on these things than I am. But if I, as a common person, is asking this very straightforward, basic question, why are not those...
I don't know. Sean Spicer, Banyan, I don't know, Reince Priebus. And they're essentially saying, AJ, that those of us in the battleground states are stupid. And that we're so stupid, we're being manipulated by the Russians, and we don't even know we're being manipulated. That's how stupid we are. It's one thing to be manipulated because the Russians want us to do something. But it's another thing to be so stupid you're being manipulated, and you don't know you're being manipulated. How stupid am I? AJ, how stupid am I?
I don't know.
Real stupid.
So can then the conservative radio do this and start asking these basic questions about what is going on? What is going on? I mean, if Trump's people are not asking these questions, if they are not responding, can Rush Limbaugh, can Mike Levin, can
everybody? AJ, if there was collusion, what was the information that they put in the ether was such of a high quality and character that it changed the votes in 10 battleground states? What was that information? And I've yet to have anybody tell me what it is. Was it the fact that Hillary had a pizzeria in Washington in which child sex trafficking was taking place? The guy that went and shot up that pizzeria in Washington. Now, does anybody seriously believe that Ohioans and Iowans and North Carolinians and Floridians voted for Trump based upon a fake news story about a pizzeria in Washington that had Hillary Clinton trafficking children for sex? Does anybody believe that's possible? The answer is no. It's not possible that I cast my ballot based upon that stupidity. Everyone who voted for Trump knew they voted for Trump or against Hillary. I voted more against Hillary than for Trump. I thought Trump is likely to be a pretty good president, but nonetheless, I voted against Hillary. And if anybody can tell me what it is, what is the collusion, what was the result of the collusion, assuming that Trump and Vladimir Putin got together and agreed to collude to win the election, what was it? AJ, great call. We got to go. Let's continue with more. If a line becomes available, 877-381-3811. What is it? What is the collusion? Are we so stupid? Are we so ignorant? Are we so misinformed and easily manipulated that a person like me are being manipulated, colluded upon, and made to vote a certain way when I didn't know why I was voting? Am I that stupid? The Democrats think we are. I'd like to know, what is it? Bill Cunningham in for Mark Levin.
Mark Levin.
Billy Cunningham, the great American, in for Mark Levin. And let's continue with the calls as time allows. Christina in Fresno, California, the district of Congressman Nunez. And Christina, welcome to the Mark Levin Show. Christina, please go ahead.
Thank you. Yes. I just want to say I still support Trump. He treated the campaign like a job interview, and now he's trying to execute, but he's come up against the D.C. political machine.
Ain't that the truth?
And I support also the Freedom Caucus. There is a Representative Mo Brooks that has a clean, one-line repeal bill. Why don't they put that through and let the Health and Human Secretary chip away at the regulations?
Christina, they could pass Congressman Brooks's bill. It's like 28 words, repeal Obamacare, make it effective in 18 months, and in that 18 months, bring in the hospital group, bring in the doctors, bring in the American Heart Association, the lung, the cancer, whatever it is, bring them in over 18 months, put a political gun to the head of the Democrats saying, you got to help us do this, and get it done. They've got to do that. And by the way, Nunez supposedly was holding a meeting tonight in Fresno, California. Was that well covered by the media there or not?
I think he came up against a bunch of protests, and it was a highly private meeting, so I don't think the media was really allowed up close.
And the other thing is the protesters are paid $15 an hour by George Soros types. They're ridiculous protesters. Nunez has done nothing wrong. If it's a problem for the chair of the House Intelligence Committee to meet with the President of the United States about intelligence matters, then something's wrong. Tonight, Adam Schiff went in, another one of your California congressmen. He saw what it is, which is Obama administration officials surveilled the candidacy, the transition, and the presidency of Donald J. Trump. And now I want to hear from Schiff now. I want to hear what Schiff has to say. And Christina, before I let you go, what do you think about the Freedom Caucus? I think they saved Republicans next year from a debacle at the polls. Should Trump have gone after the Freedom Caucus?
Absolutely not. That was the wrong move. However, I believe their individual districts are going to support them, and they get the positive feedback. So I don't think it's going to make a difference. I'm going to forgive Trump on this because I feel like he loves the country and he wants to make it great again. And and I support my Congressman Nunez also in his efforts in these last couple of weeks.
I think Nunez knows that persons acting on the authority of Barack Hussein Obama opened a criminal investigation into Donald J. Trump's campaign and transition, and then criminally leaked mentions of it to friendly news outlets. That's the big story. This all stuff going on is a bunch of shiny objects in the bottom of the creek. But the fact of the matter is that beginning in last July, the FBI director, James Comey, under the authority of Barack Hussein Obama, opened a criminal investigation of the opponent's leader, the opposition party's candidate for the presidency. That's a big deal. And Evelyn Farkas said after the election, during the transition period, when allegedly Trump and Obama were making nice, that Obama was stabbing Trump in the back, and they were releasing to friendly news media outlets classified information, which is a felony. Farkas said it, Comey said it, and so, Christina, I wish that Trump would stop following the shiny objects in the bottom of the creek and actually do the job he was elected to do. Christina, we got to go. Thanks for your call. 3 hours fly when you're having fun. Enjoyed every minute of it. Whenever Rich Cementa, the executive producer of Mark Levin, or the man really in charge, Curtis Sliwa, gets a hold of me to pinch hit for Mark Levin, I'm likely to say yes. There's one talk show host in America that I gauge my travel when he's on the air. When Levin is on the air, or Levin is at crtv.com, I'm watching the great one, Mark Levin. So, stay tuned for more. Trump has got to be Trump. Bill Cunningham, in for Mark Levin.